Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome. And today I'm really delighted to have my friend and client, Stephanie Shalofsky. And Stephanie is the founder of the Organizing Zone. She specializes in working with small companies to gain control of their work environment, resulting in more productive and professional workspaces. She works with clients both on-site and virtually. And I am really happy to have you with me today, Stephanie.
Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Terrific. So I've, in full disclosure, you've been working with us at Video Socials for some time, and you've done a lot of videos, and we'll get into it in a moment where people can find, all your contact information, et cetera. And everything, I just wanted to acknowledge you because everything that I found on you online is so well organized. It's remarkable. You live your mission. But how did that come about? What drove you to be an organizer, and what's your passion? What drives this passion?
Well, I have to admit, I got that organizing gene from my mother, who got it from my grandmother. So there's a long history here. So it comes to me innately, and it was just natural. That's just the way I'm wired. Though saying that, I would just want to put out there that it's possible to learn organizing skills. It's not something that if you're not born with it, it doesn't happen. So let's put that aside for the moment. But anyway, I've always been organized, and I thrive in a calmer, controlled space. And I really understand and embrace the benefits. And that's what I try to bring to my clients. In my former life, I worked in the entertainment industry, so I really honed my organizing skills and project management skills and my ability to create systems and processes during those days. So when I decided it was time for a change, it was like, okay, now what am I going to do? I want to do something on my own. It seemed almost logical and very natural to fall back on my organizing skills as the springboard. At that point, I didn't even know professional organizing existed as an option, as a profession. But once I discovered it, and like all things in life, it just happened by chance. My cousin happened to hire a professional organizer who helped her on a project in her basement. And the woman she hired was the president of the National Association of Organizing and Productivity Specialists. And that project, as well as a picture of my cousin and her kids looking at the space in their basement, was in a full-page article in the New York Times. And that was my light bulb moment. It was like, oh, I can do this. I love to help people. I love to meet new people. I love to inspire them to tackle their challenges. So this could be the perfect, fit of my prior experience, my skills, and my interests. And that's what it's become really over the past 15 years.
Well, it's phenomenal. Again, I've seen you record so many videos, about this, and you give such practical, simple tips and ideas. And I'll get into my story a little bit because I'm a bit of a dichotomy. There's areas of my life that are very organized, and other areas, both in personal and business, but in other areas, I'm really struggling. All right. So, but what are some of the pitfalls that your typical client might face? Because you're not just doing, home organizing, you're doing business organizing, you're doing virtual organizing, you're doing digital organizing, right? But what kind of struggles do you see people having?
Well, I see, when I work with a client, a lot of what we're working around is basically them developing new behaviors, new habits. That's really what's going to help them get from where they are to a more organized, functional space. So those habits need time to form. Unfortunately, once we finish, if they don't continue practicing those behaviors, everything starts going sideways, and they start recreating what we spent all this valuable time organizing and getting control over. So it's very important that they really continue to practice those behaviors, because new habits could take, maybe 2 months or more to become part of your routine. It all depends on how much you practice them and what you focus on. So that's one of the major pitfalls, is really not sticking with the habits, so you don't backslide. And backsliding is a byproduct of the process, unfortunately, in a lot of cases.
And so, what do you think might have people like cringe at the idea of organizing? I mean, I know what it is for me, but what do you see from your experience with working with clients?
Well, I think part of it is, on one hand, you have the desire to do it because you know that there could be some great benefits. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get started. I don't know what the best process should be. This is going to be really complicated. It's like I'm getting overwhelmed just thinking about it. So it's like, I'm not going there. It's easier just to sort of push it aside and say, okay, another day or another time. It's just not going to happen. So that's really what drives a lot of people to not move forward, which is unfortunate, because they could really make some progress even in small chunks of time. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes at a shot. So over a couple of weeks, you could spend an hour and really have made some progress. And this is especially true, like with digital organizing.
And boy, so in my world, I see two things that you just said. One is the willingness to practice, realizing that it is a habit, right? And in my world, it's also that I'm really so using digital as an example, right? So one side of me is file storage, right? I am incredibly organized in file storage, probably more than anybody else that I've ever met. But I spent years in IT, in IT management, right? So I understand the value and the need for it. And especially if you're working with teams and you've got multiple people and you're using online services like Office 365 or Google Workspace or whatever the case may be. If it's not organized, if you don't have a naming convention for files, if you don't have a storage place, if everything doesn't have a place, then everything's not going to get put in the right place. And it takes some diligence to develop habits around that. But I've got that. Now, the opposite extreme is I don't want to tell you how many thousands of emails I have in my inbox. Right. So, and that's, it's almost like a business suicide having that, because it's stuff's going to get missed, stuff's going to get lost, and I just haven't managed to get myself into the mode or the understanding. I understand it, but I can't seem to get over the hump of stop opening and resolving emails and then not doing anything with the email that you just dealt with, right? The whole concept. I have folders. I created a whole mess of folders, right? And I don't use them, right? So, because at one point I sat down and did exactly what you're talking about. I spent a bunch of time and energy getting it all organized. And then I didn't follow through with the habits as soon as I got busy, because I'm a business owner like every other business owner. I get dozens, if not hundreds of emails every single day. And it's just overwhelming. But there are filters, right?
Yes.
But for me, if it's not in my inbox, and this is a habit, and I realize it logically, but it's like why I need somebody like you is to be an accountability partner, right? To actually do and use the filters, because I worry about once it's filtered and it's moved someplace other than my inbox, I'm going to forget to check it. I'm going to forget to go into those folders, and I've got so many folders, right? It's right. So, what do you do with somebody like me?
Well, there is still solutions. I can understand the out of sight, out of mind,
Mhm.
challenge, because that's a common challenge. A lot of people, have that issue and concern.
Right.
But maybe it's trying to use the processes somewhat differently. Maybe you should filter out, the spam. I'm sure you're already doing that, trying to deal with the spam,
Mhm.
but filter out the less important. I don't know what kind of messages you get, but like, for instance, if you got a lot of, email blasts that you don't need
Mhm.
to read in the moment, you can read them whenever, get them out. Sort of like starting to shed layers of what's in your inbox so that
Mm.
you're reducing it down to the essential messages, those that require action. And
Mhm.
then I don't know which email system you're using, but there are ways you can flag messages so that, once you've read them, even if there's some actions required, maybe you develop a flagging system so that you
Mhm.
know to go back to it, if you have something that's pending. Because a lot of times, we have issues that are pending. You send out an email and you have to wait for somebody else to get back to you, or it's a project and it's a longer time window, so you want to keep that message on your radar so you can follow up on it. So maybe some
Right.
kind of flagging system using the different color codes to have a significance to you, for you. Just as off the top of my head, some ways to try to help you, navigate through all the emails.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I
Oh,
mean,
no
it
worries.
just goes to show because even, I obviously have significant experience in
Oh, yeah.
technology and et cetera. And that being the case, it's like I almost feel guilty that here I am, that I've got this incredibly important area of my life that's completely disorganized.
Mhm.
And yet I know what I can do, to resolve it. But and for me, honestly, it's probably I need to get somebody else involved. I need a personal assistant. I mean, honestly, just because I have like so many business owners and managers, I have more things to do in a given day than I have hours to do them in. So
Mhm.
um, uh, maybe it's time that I get somebody to help with that. Um, but what would you put down as some of your best office organizing and productivity best practices?
Well, there are a number of them. First, this is in no particular order. I would suggest establishing beginning of the day and end of the day routines. I mean, these are things that take like 5 or 10 minutes at most. We're not talking huge time consumers, but at the beginning of the day routine would help set up your day, so everything goes smoothly, hopefully. But it would include tasks like checking your calendar, finding those open blocks of time so that as you're going through the email, if something pops up that you have to deal with, right off the top of your head, you've got a chunk of time at 11 o'clock, you can do it. That takes the
Right.
stress out of the equation immediately. So that type of task would be great for the beginning of the day. And then at the end of the day, it's wrapping up for the day and sort of setting yourself up for the next day. So the best task to do at that time is your to-do list and updating it. It's like looking and seeing, what did you actually get done today? Some days you can check everything off. Other days you check one thing off and you still have the other, 9 things on the list that still have to get done. So updating the list and prioritizing it so that the thing you have to do the first thing in the following morning is clearly flagged. So when you come in, you sit down, you can get right to work. You don't have to start muddling through trying to say, okay, and figure out, what do I do first? What about this? What about that? And you end up going off in 20 different directions, not doing the one thing that you really need to do.
Absolutely. And again, in full disclosure, as I've mentioned, I've seen you record many videos. And as a matter of fact, I checked your YouTube channel. I believe you have like 82 videos on your YouTube channel at this point,
Mm-hmm.
which is fantastic. And every one of them are tips like that you just shared. And I really want to acknowledge you because you make all that available for free.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for that. And so, folks, if you want to get these free tips and ideas, first of all, the organizingzone.com, which is your website, Stephanie,
Mm-hmm.
is phenomenal.
Thank you.
And you've got a blog on there, which is the organizingzone.com/blog. You've got a menu item at the top. Guess what? It's organized. You can find it. and your YouTube channel, and you have playlists on your YouTube channel. So it's not just 80 videos sitting there. It's everything from digital organization, and paper organization, et cetera. So thank you for creating those playlists so that we don't have to wade through it. We can get right to the topic area that makes sense. And that's at the Organizing Zone on your YouTube channel. On LinkedIn, you're Stephanie Shalofsky, office organizer. And again, folks, there's going to be links for all of these ways to get in touch with or get information from Stephanie that are associated with however you're watching or listening to this podcast. And then you're also on Facebook at Organizing Zone. And frankly, if you just look up on Google, Stephanie Shalofsky, organizer, you're going to get a lot of stuff. So, and I do absolutely encourage you to take it. You've made all this stuff available free, and as a matter of fact, you even have a download, which is kind of like a quick cheat sheet. I downloaded it myself, kind of a quick cheat sheet, just some things to go with, and we'll have the. It's on your website, but we'll also have the link for that download again associated with this. So, but speaking of your video as an example, and we are self-sponsored, and Video Socials is our sponsor. And what Video Socials is, folks, is people like Stephanie, like me, business owners, attorneys, CPAs, mediators, coaches, consultants, professional services people need to get our knowledge out there and onto social media platforms, into email newsletters, into websites, etc. And we recognize that YouTube/video is not only the wave of the future, it's literally what's happening now. If you're not doing video, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But how do you do it? And how do you get experience and practice with that without having to spend a small fortune to bring in a video production team, et cetera, to try to get this, or to sit there in front of your computer and talk to this inanimate object called a camera, and expect that you're going to produce something that other people are going to want to watch. Well, we had this idea of let's bring together a handful of professionals at a time into weekly meetings that provides an accountability, that gives you a place to go, that gives you a way to get it done. And we take turns recording videos and giving each other feedback. And that feedback is supportive, it's encouraging, and it also includes tips, ideas, suggestions for how you might do something a little better next time. And the value of it for me has been incredible, because I get to learn from everybody else, and everybody else gets to learn from me. So it is Video Socials, and it is fun and done. So post it as we close every meeting. But you've been with us for at least 2 years, right, Stephanie? Maybe closer to 3.
Almost 3, yeah.
Almost 3, yeah. So why are you a Video Socials member? What are you getting out of it that has you keep coming back?
Well, I've gotten a tremendous amount out of it, Mark. Originally, before I joined, I knew I had to start doing short videos, but it was like, no, I can't do it. It's too hard. It's too complicated. I don't know how to do it. Very much like my clients speak to me. That's how I was thinking of the videos, recording videos, I should say. In any event, once I went to a meeting and I understood what the process was, you made it very easy. I just had to show up. I had to have my thoughts together about whatever I wanted to share, and then just be prepared to record a video. And that was it. And it was done in a very safe, supportive environment where everybody in the group had a vested interest in supporting everybody else and sharing their message, offering constructive suggestions, as you mentioned. So I've grown a lot over the past almost 3 years. And now I'm very comfortable recording them, whereas at first I was petrified. Now it's like riding a bicycle. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And I really enjoy my weekly club meetings. I love the members that are in my particular group at the moment. And it's been very worthwhile. It's really forced me to push my comfort comfort boundaries and really do something that was important both personally and professionally.
Awesome. And so folks, if you have an interest in doing marketing videos or being out there on social media in video, on YouTube, etc., a great place to start is with Video Socials. There's no cost, there's no obligation to come as a guest. Just go to videosocials.net and click on the guest tab at the top of the screen and RSVP for any available meeting. We'd love to meet you. Stephanie, thank you. And thank you for your contribution, because we all contribute to each other, right? We all learn from each other. We see each other's styles, etc. And you bring a level of organization, which I so appreciate, in not only how you structure your videos and you structure your content, but even today, it was the first time I'd really looked at your website. You have tons and tons of written blog posts. So it's they go along with, you know, all these amazing videos that you've done. But thank you for that. So how does somebody get over? Just kind of in closing, how does somebody get over that hump, you know, of I got a mess, some part of my life, some part of my business. I'm a hoarder. It's overwhelming. I just don't know how to start to get a handle on it. The whole concept, as you started with, the whole concept of approaching it. In my case, the almost 10,000 emails I have in my inbox, it's like, that's massively overwhelming. I know that once I create filters, everything will just go where it needs to go. And I don't need to worry about stuff from 2 years ago, because guess what? If I haven't handled it by now, it's gone. Right. So, but how do you get started? How do you get over it? Should they just call you and have a conversation?
Yeah, basically, well, first off, I do free consults, so I'm very open to speaking with whomever might have an organizing challenge that they'd like to address. The real key to success is really being ready to take that first step. You don't have to know what that first step is. I'll help you figure it out, because it's a collaborative process. What would work for me is not going to work for you, or, vice versa. We're individual people. We have different styles, different learning preferences, different environments, different challenges, whatever. So we need to figure out how to solve the problem. And it's a collaborative process. So I work with my clients. We work very closely together. We come up with the solutions. We try them. Maybe we don't get it 100% right the first time, but we tweak it. You start practicing it, and we just tweak it a little bit, and, life goes on, and you start seeing success, because the real key is to start seeing the progress. Because that's motivating, and that keeps you going. And that's like with anything you might attempt in life that's unfamiliar to you. The motivation is what you need, and that comes from seeing your progress.
And from personal experience, and I know that you've relayed this in some of your success stories that you've even done a video as an example, the satisfaction that you have in finally tackling that project. And sometimes maybe it is a really big endeavor, but it's taking a bite at a time, right? It's taking one step at a time, organizing one little piece, and then another little piece, and then another little piece, giving you the motivation to move forward. And as a coach myself, as a business coach, that there's no way around the fact that you have to be willing to practice. You have to be willing to implement, and you don't have to do it by yourself. No. You don't have to do it on your own. As a matter of fact, it's probably not a good idea for you to even try, because you're probably not going to get there if you don't have that, third party, that other person such as yourself that can look at it objectively. Who doesn't sit there and judge you, because we are our own worst enemies, when it comes to judging ourselves, right? You're not there to judge. You're there to support and encourage and find solutions, as you said. So I really do encourage people, if you want the help, Stephanie doesn't bite. Very easy to talk to, very easy, very personable. But even if you're not ready for that, do check out, again, through all of the links. She has made a wealth of information available for you to check out. Stephanie, anything in closing that you'd like people to take away from this?
Well, I would just encourage you, if you have an organizing project that you've been backburnering for a long time, is to move it to the forefront, because the benefits that you will derive from having tackled it and getting the job done will be well worth the effort you invest. So, don't keep postponing it, just get started.
Absolutely. And it's not just the personal satisfaction that I would throw in, but your productivity, whether that be at home, just dealing with managing the household, or especially at work. And I did one other thing I did want to mention is something that fascinates me about you is that you've literally gone in and helped people like reorganize their space in their house, in their business, etc. But you also help people with how to manage that inbox, like you were just talking with me, and how to manage your desktop, right? Are you the kind of person that has hundreds of little icons across your desktop for all your stuff, rather than having things organized and put away? And it doesn't matter whether it's physical organization, digital organization, or what I know that very well is that it is in getting organized physically or digitally, we're also helping to organize our own thought processes.
Right, exactly.
And in doing so, that just helps us tremendously in our productivity and our effectiveness as business professionals as well. Stephanie, I literally, we could go on all day, but thank you so much for being on. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for making so much information available for free for people. Just for the asking, it's just awesome. I know I've known many organizers, I know many coaches, et cetera, and you really inspire me in what you do and how you talk about it. And thank you for taking on video and being willing to get past that initial terror that all of us felt in the beginning. Because we just don't know what to do. We don't know, how am I going to look? How am I going to sound? I don't know what to talk about, right? And it's just being willing to practice, and so consider getting into practice of getting your work and your life organized, and consider using Stephanie to help you do that.
Thank you so much, Mark. This has been a great opportunity. So I appreciate the time we spent today talking about all things organizing, as well as a lot of other things. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. And thank you, Stephanie.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.